Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Teachers Playlist podcast. I'm Jen Rose, your host. I'm really thrilled to bring outstanding educators to the mic to share their insight and capacity in their practice, and in doing so, create a playlist of educational practice and ideas for you to use for momentum and inspiration when you need it. The panelists today are sharing how to implement circles in their daily practice, as described in the book Circle Forward, Building a Restorative School Community by Carolyn Boyes-Watson and Kay Pranis. My guests are all practitioners in their own right, bringing circles to education as daily practice. Katie Marren is District Principal of Indigenous Education in Qualicum, BC. Flo Wong is Principal of Arrowview Elementary School, also in Qualicum. And Linette Woods is performing two roles at the moment: half-time District Social Emotional Learning Support. I'm interested to hear more about that. And learning support teacher, K-7 in Arrowview Elementary School. So all the panelists are connected, and they're going to bring their focus and capacity to you in how to implement circles in a practical and tangible way, even today on Teachers Playlist. So welcome to our panelists. Katie, I think I'll start with you to provide the big picture of circles and why this is a practice that we can bring into education throughout the province.
Thanks, Jen. Aitniteth, Asiamna Sietya, Anthapa Katie Marren Nisquish, Tanitsan at Qualicum. Good morning, respected friends. My name is Katie Marren and I live in Qualicum. I introduce myself in the hul'q'umi'num language, which is the traditional language of this place. In my role as district principal, I started 2 years ago. The most important thing for me to do first, before anything else, was to connect with local First Nations and find out what is it that they want for kids in our system. How do we make change? How do we take the wisdom and the guidance of the people from this place and bring it into our system, because we need to make that change. And so Chief Michael Recalma of Qualicum First Nations was gracious enough to invite me out for lunch. And so as we were having our connection time, I asked him, what is important for you? What are some things that we can do in our school system that would bring your knowledge and your guidance and your wisdom into our schools, and that would show respect to you and your community, and would support our path to truth and reconciliation in schools. And he said it would be my dream to have circles in every school and in every classroom. And so we talked a little bit about that and recognized that we needed to provide some learning for adults in the system in order to do this. And so him and I together designed a learning session for principals, vice principals, teachers, and QP staff to come to, and it was all around circles, and Chief Michael was there, and he shared again with the larger group why it was important. And both Flo and Linette were part of that session, and they really took this work seriously. They took up this work in a really great and respectful way. And so I know that they'll share their story, but as they've been doing this work, I've been feeding this back and sharing this back with Chief Michael Recalma so that he knows that we're listening, So the school Arrowview Elementary is on the traditional lands of Qualicum First Nation. And so it's a beautiful sign of respect to take that guidance and to actually implement it in schools.
So for everyone listening, this is a wonderful way to view from a big picture perspective how important it is to implement practice, but do this mindfully. And that's why we're here today, to bring outstanding educators to the mic to share with you what their story is and what they've learned and how you can implement this and take this even starting next week. And so I wanted to turn it over to you, Linette, just to talk about your story and your journey toward using Circle. So, where did you start? Where are you now? And what can you recommend for educators listening right now?
Um, I started as a classroom teacher, and in my last role, when I was teaching grade 3, 4, um, there's conflicts in the classroom and things that are difficult, and kids are trying to work it out. And so, very informally, we would come together as a class community and work through the problems and talk about it as a group. Um, I always felt that even with my own family, if we had issues that came as a family, we would say, okay, everybody, we're meeting in the living room. Let's sit down, let's talk. So that talking piece of the communication is just so key to being able to resolve conflicts. And so that's always been really innate in me as a person. So when I ended up getting my role as district teaching and learning, district support teacher for social emotional learning, um, I felt that that was an important piece to be sharing with other educators, that when just building the community in your classroom, especially at the beginning of the year, to lay that foundation of respect with each other and the capacity to listen, and not just listen, but hear what each other is saying. And the circle is just a beautiful way to do that, because it puts everybody on this equal place, and there isn't one person that's leading it. And ideally, you would like the students to start to be able to take on that role as being the circle keeper as well. Because I think in this day and age, with social media and all the technology that kids are at, we're losing that
Mm.
ability to listen to each other and spend time face to face. So I just think it's really, really important. And so I started implementing that as I was going into other classrooms. And then when I came to work at Arrowview,
Mhm.
the students have a fort building area that they love so much. And then I had heard, and this was on a day when I wasn't there because I only work the first 2.5 days of the week. I had heard that there were conflicts, and so that it was going to be shut down. And it just didn't set right in my heart at all, because I thought, but this is where kids need to learn how to build communities together. And so I offered to pull together any students that were interested to come and join in a circle to talk about what was happening. So we did that. And I believe we had, like, from grade 4 up to grade 7, students arrived. And from that, we just set talked about Circle. And I know the kids have been doing an amazing job with Circle with Kukum in the school. And so they already had that experience. So it wasn't something new. And they were lovely. Like, it was such an empowering thing to listen to students speak from their hearts and share how they felt. And because Arrowview community has already set that as a practice, there was also that sense of safety that was there. And the kids really spoke, and it was the ones that were feeling things unjust were happening to them were
Mhm.
able to express how they felt, and then the other ones were listening. And then so from that, after we had that circle meeting, we had another one where we gathered together and we spoke to creating norms, which were not
Mm.
based on me at all. I explained to them that this is their community. They just need some guidance in how to learn how to work together and solve problems. So they've come up with all of those norms together. And then it's been working really well. And so anybody else that would like to join in with their fort building community have to meet in a circle. The circle is much smaller because sometimes we only have like 3 or 4 that say, I want to build forts now too. And then we go through the talk of what it was that we did with the rest of the group. Everybody understands. And we now have 2 ambassadors that play in the forts because the idea is to let the kids be the ones that are working to solve their own problems. And I am only there to help guide if they can't do that. And so far it's been working out really lovely. And it's just so wonderful because we want our kids to play. We want them to be in nature. We want them to, explore and be creative. And they talked about all those things in the circle, about the things that they loved about fort building. So it's filled my bucket to be able to see those kids out there just having a good time and making it work. And so the circle is just a really wonderful, the book is great for teachers because it starts with just introducing the concept of circle. It talks
Oh,
about
great.
where it originated from and
Okay.
talks about um, the indigenous perspectives and ways of being and how that's so important in that culture. And there's so much to learn from that. And then the book takes you through how to start a circle for the first time if you've never done it. And then it gives you examples of what you can do in an example, like maybe you're talking about peer conflict, or maybe you're
Right.
talking about something to do with what was one of the other ones, creating a safe and happy classroom. And there's just, if the book just goes through all these different ways you can flip through it and go, oh, this is the thing that I want to do. I can follow this. And so it's a great starting point for people to learn and understand about how powerful and changing for students and communities it can be.
So for educators new to circles, and I certainly recommend, and I know Linette, you would recommend also the purchase of this book. The link will be in the video description below. Highly recommend. Will it take you through uh, are there protocols? Are there ways of saying, ways of phrasing things? Is there actual physical setup in the classroom? Does it go through those kinds of really sort of granular bits that somebody would have to get right the first time?
It does. It talks
Okay.
about how to come together in a circle, how
Okay.
to introduce the circle.
Mhm.
It gives you things that you can say so that if you're not sure, you can follow what
Okay.
it says.
Mhm.
It talks about introducing the talking piece. It talks about having something in the center of the circle.
Oh,
Talks about how to close your circle. So it's really laid out for you really nicely. So there isn't anything that I don't think you should be nervous about because it's all right there for you.
it's wonderful. And the multiple connections to the BC curriculum um, are, astounding. Like I'm just thinking, right, just going through the BC curriculum right now, thinking that would be a really great way to also hit some of those curricular competencies. And I'm designing an assessment in my head right now. So um, that, thank you so much for sharing that. And so when you do recommend that to educators, how long would you say it takes to feel comfortable? I know you came in feeling comfortable already with these things. What would you recommend to somebody, a grade 7 teacher or, grade 3 teacher, doesn't matter, who has never done this before and would like to try? How long do you think it would take to develop this as a practice? Would you recommend it daily, or is it weekly, or when problems arise?
I would say that, and it depends on people's schedules and timetables. Ideally,
Right,
it would be something that you'd want to do daily as a check-in.
right.
If you can't do that, then as many times as you can do it. It needs to go slow because our students aren't, as adults, we're not used to this. This is new for so many people. So I think you need to give yourself some grace and be patient with yourself and take it in small baby steps. And initially, when you would start your circle, It might just be that everybody's talking about, with the younger ones, they say, tell us about what's your favorite food and why you like it. Something very simple as that. So they just get used to the practice. And as people get, you'll have students that will decide to pass and not want to share. But that's just indicative of the fact that they're probably really nervous and not comfortable yet. And so the more that you do it, the more comfortable people become. You're building that community together. And those students, what I've noticed in past is the ones that are usually quiet in the beginning will start to share as it becomes something that they're used to doing. So I think as far as an educator, if you were doing this fairly consistently, I think you need to give yourself like a good 3 or 4 weeks to kind of really feel like you got your feet going. And then the more you do it, it starts to just become an innate part of you. And it shifts how you think. It changes how you think about, I think, interacting with people. And I think it changes how you think about supporting students when they're trying to work through problems. You don't need to be the one to solve it. You just need to be the one there to help guide them through it and give them the strategies and the skills to be able to do it on their own.
And do you feel that that's a message in the book? Is that your role as a facilitator, essentially, of positive social relationships as an
Absolutely.
adult? Is that okay?
Yeah, because in the book also talks about how to eventually, when students are comfortable with it, they can then take a turn in leading the circle.
I find that fascinating. I wanted to bring in the lovely Flo Wong as well into this as a principal of Arrowview Elementary School. So you've got a lens that's wide, essentially. You see all of your students in front of you and your staff. And how have circles impacted you, essentially? I'm curious how they've impacted your school, you, and how you have used them to build relationships.
Thanks. It's so great to be here with you all today. Um, as a principal coming into the school, and just getting used to the culture and just taking a note of how people relate to each other, it was evident in some of our classrooms that the kids were not connected to each other. And coming back from Christmas break, that was quite difficult for them. And we intentionally went into circle practice with one particular class, and it's been a phenomenal experience. And so I've always participated in circle. And participated about learning, but hadn't really taken on the ownership of actually running circles. So I'm quite new to that practice. And the teacher really relied on me to start it and model it. And so that book, like Linette said, really just laid out really simply what the terms are, how to introduce it, and to go slow and to have low demand topics like what's your favorite food, who do you look up to, and what was really incredible was because everyone is equal, including myself and the classroom teacher, we were able to connect with the kids on their level. And then it quickly goes into talking from the heart and listening from the heart. And that was something that I thought maybe the kids might be uncomfortable with. But when we're in the moment of circle and we're relating with each other, they were really able to get down deep and share what it meant to them, what it means from sharing from the heart and listening from the heart. And so we went to it intentionally. So we did 2 times a week with this particular class. And it's been transformational. That class has settled down. I think they are more aware of each other. They are hearing voices that they don't normally attend to. They're usually so concentrated on their own friend group. But I think as we're going into circle as a whole group, they have an opportunity to listen to one another. And whether or not that sinks in at that moment, I think it's really in the last couple of months that class has settled as a group of kind and caring kids that we knew that they were. So it's been really great in terms of community building on a staff level. Holding this at staff meetings has really been able to allow staff to feel connected to each other and relate to each other in a good way. And so I'm grateful for the practice. And right now, in terms of problem solving with kids, when kids get referred to the office for playground conflicts and that sort of thing, we almost always say, let's go into circle. let's just figure this out together, as opposed to being punitive. It becomes a restorative practice, so that the relationships are restored. Because kids most often are friends, they just have a misunderstanding during a play session, and that's okay. And they're able to come to it more quickly than getting defensive about, well, what happened? What did you do? They're able to hear how their actions impacted each other. So it's been a really great practice, and we're going to do it again on Monday. We've got conflict on the soccer field. We have some really intense soccer players in the grade 3, 4 level. And so we're going to invite the school, anyone who's playing soccer, to come meet with us on a Monday morning. And it's really about making the time and taking the time to hold circle. And I know we have busy schedules and we want to get to curriculum, but this is so important, because if we can't be together in a good way, it makes learning all the more harder. So circle has been a blessing.
And would you say then that making time for circle would mitigate other issues or lessen some of the intensity of the issues that normally happen in schools? Would you say it's a good sort of preventative measure?
It can be. And I think the example that Linette has given, her taking the time to meet with the kids and really plan, has now the fallout from that. I'm not problem solving that during those recess times. They're not coming in and complaining about someone stealing sticks from their forts. So it is really time saving
Mhm.
ultimately in the end.
In the end.
Um, and kids look forward to it once they know that, like, I'm going to have a say and I'm going to have the talking piece and I'm going to be heard. They're willing to go into circle because they know they'll have an opportunity to share. What I've noticed is kids are less defensive when we're problem solving. Yeah,
Yeah, they're not coming in with the gloves on ready for a fight. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The posturing probably is lessened over time.
Yes.
So I'm also fascinated with the aspect of offering teachers tangible and concrete pieces to help them get started. Because I know that this is a common um, need across the province. We all experience forts, especially us up here, except there's snow forts and it's for 6 months of the year. At least you guys are, sticks and mud at this point. That's great. But this is common, soccer, sports, and dealing with those things during instructional time. I think people do cringe quite a bit, and it ends up being an office issue. Send them to the office. But what I'm hearing from you is that if you're developing this practice within the office as an extension of the office, that essentially that's great modeling for other teachers in the building as well. Um, so, what would you recommend in terms of prompts? I know we talked a little bit prior about possibly using AI and maybe an offering that you might have to help teachers come up with prompts.
Absolutely. I would definitely recommend starting with the book. That is the anchor for our practice here at the school. Where AI comes in for me is when there are situations that are not common, and I need ideas for how I might lead a
Right.
circle in terms of a round. So, for example, we had a student who was really dysregulated in class, and they had to evacuate, and there were some
Mhm.
feelings of angst and anxiety seeing that their teacher was also a little bit shaken. So what I did was I asked AI to and gave them the context of, we're going into a talking circle. The aim is to draw out of students in terms of what makes them feel safe. And I just asked for, 3 questions I can ask for to lead around. And it was able to lay that out for me. And of course, I'm checking and making sure it's tailored to the group that we're working with and the right age level. And I appreciate that in terms of just getting the thinking going. Sometimes we're on the fly and in the moment. And AI can provide that assistance in terms of coming up with circle prompts specific to a situation that might not be mentioned in the book. The book is phenomenal in terms of the coverage of topics like IEPs and social justice, but there are some of those instances where the book may not cover it. AI can provide an assist in that way.
So big picture, AI can augment what the book beautifully lays out. Highly recommended for everyone who are wanting to implement circles in the classroom, through the office as an extension, or just to build school community and general problem solving. Any last or closing messages for educators, Katie?
Yeah, I was just thinking to circle back, pun intended, I suppose. Um, so in 2018, Standard 9 was brought in, which is a requirement, not just a suggestion, that all
Right.
BC educators bring Indigenous worldviews and perspectives into the classroom, into their work. As we know, it's in the curriculum, every grade, every subject, but this is also a way of bringing Indigenous worldviews and perspectives into the classroom, which then is part of educators' responsibility to Standard 9.
Yeah. Well said. And I know how deeply we feel this, and we want to do a great job. And this is why it's so important to have educators who are dedicated to it, to talk to other educators and bring them into it and say, you can too. This is how. Here are some steps. And I love the fact that the book is written to support Standard 9, essentially. So any last comments, Linette? Any closing, just what has this done for you as an educator?
I think that keeping in mind that through all of these things that we're doing, when we're coming together in circle, coming together in community, these are life skills. These aren't just things that kids, like we're doing it in school, but the skills that they're learning and the ability to take time and be patient to listen to somebody, to be present in the moment, to speak from the heart, to work together collaboratively with somebody else are skills and strategies that will take them forward in their life, in their relationships with other people, in their jobs, in their families. And so this is just a piece of those foundational building blocks that as educators we can help students build in school. And the learning that happens academically is built on top of these building blocks of all of our core competencies. So it's just so important to make sure that we take the time for this because I believe it's very foundational to everything else.
I love the word foundational. I often skip those things just in favor of, but we got to get to the curriculum. And I've made that mistake, and I know I have, and that's why I find this a fascinating conversation. Flo, from a final thoughts from a leader's perspective, why would you recommend this for school leaders?
I think school leaders make the time. That's what I would say. Take the time, make the time for this because it's the investment at the front end is just going to pay off in dividends in terms of school culture and school community. It's a very connecting experience. And I think that's what we want kids to feel like they belong. Same with staff. And that's one of our core values as humans. We want to feel like we belong to community. So take that time. It's worth it.